No, Heavy does not rely on Medic to be successful. I would like to believe that my own foray into the Heavy side of Team Fortress 2 YouTube has helped the independent Heavy playstyle become more mainstream, but in any case, there does seem to have been a change in how the remaining 24 Heavy mains feel about playing without a dedicated medigun attached to them at all times. However, I am positive that there are still those out there who believe that Heavy requires a medic to do well. I have personally received some comments implying that this is true. So, to any of you watching right now who think that Heavy does rely on medic to succeed, this video is for you. Most of the time when you are playing Heavy, you will end up taking damage as you are in combat. Provided you don't die, you will probably want to heal up to full health before looking for more combat. If you do not have a dedicated medic, or any medic at all on your team, then you will have to rely on health packs, dispensers, and of course your trusty lunchbox item to achieve this. All of these options will typically require you to back up, and in all cases will sometimes require you to wait, whether it is for a pack to respawn, a dispenser to fully heal you, or for the eating taunt to finish. Ironically, Heavy is easily the best equipped class to reset on his own because he has the sandwich, but it can be rather time consuming to back up to a safe place, wait for the animation, and then move up to the front again. So I think some people may feel like a medic is required because they are very impatient. And I think this is one reason why some players have convinced themselves that Heavy is unplayable without a medic, because it can be time consuming to reset without one. Having a medic following you around constantly changes the typical gameplay loop from a complicated multi-step flowchart into a two-step rampage. Find enemies and then shoot them. A competent Heavy with permanent beam is going to win the vast majority of 1v1s, or 2v1s rather. Really, the only classes that stand a chance are soldiers, scouts, demos, and snipers, but it's an uphill battle for all but the latter just because 450 health is a lot of health. And if the other team isn't very good, then having a pocket medic as Heavy is just easy mode. To be 100% honest, I think a lot of Heavy mains actively seek out this dynamic, and as a result, they improve a lot less because it's just really easy to farm lobbies with a competent medic at your side. You obviously will still have to consider positioning in this scenario because snipers and spies are an ever-present threat, especially in casual where the other team will typically have at least 2 of each, but combat with the rest of the cast is usually an easy win because you simply have so much health and damage. I am not a Heavy main, but I have logged a ton of hours onto him for the past year or two, and when I first started off, I actively avoided having a pocket medic. Partially because I wanted to get footage that was closer to the average game for most viewers, and also because I found it to be more stimulating. Again, it's pretty easy to farm when you have a pocket, and while this is certainly fun at times, it gets old fast. Maybe the people complaining that Heavy is boring haven't tried flank Heavy, but anyways, I digress. If you find yourself struggling to achieve anything as Heavy without constant beam, I think you have become too reliant on simply health gapping your opponent. That is, during a fight you are probably used to having basically 500 effective health instead of a measly 300. If you are trying to improve at Heavy, I think the best course of action is to focus on forcing positive damage trades. If you get better at dealing just as much or even more damage as you are taking, then without an overheal you will still be winning most 1v1s. This is easier said than done because of how Heavy functions, but it is possible in most games in my experience. If you can get good at this, you will be even better when a medic commits to pocketing you. Now, I would like to make a concession to the Heavy is bad without medic crowd. Only having 300 health kind of sucks. A single random crit pipe is enough to one-shot you, and 3 well-placed rockets, sticky bombs, or scattergun shots will also take you out at your default health. I have 3 things to say about this. Firstly, Heavy can still tank one more shot than all other classes in the game, which certainly doesn't feel that great when you are getting corner peeked, but it definitely is a big deal. Secondly, the fact that 300 health is really not a lot can be partially mitigated with good positioning. If only someone would make a free video available on a popular streaming platform that would give advice for this, if only. And thirdly, and probably the most goofy sounding, but hear me out, Heavy kind of can't be a tank, and it's good that he isn't, actually. So what do I mean by this? Well, it falls into a good game design type category. You know how the spy can appear anywhere on the map? Well, technically that's not true, but for the sake of argument, you get the point. As a result of this, Spy should not be an effective 1 versus 1 class. Can you imagine how busted it would be if Spy could appear anywhere, had scout speed, and also a rocket launcher? The revolver needs to be weaker than other primaries such as the scattergun or the grenade launcher as a trade-off for his ability to flank, otherwise Spy would be incredibly overpowered and unfun. Now, back to Heavy. Heavy has the highest damaging primary in the game, assuming perfect conditions. Heavy's health is a careful balancing act. If the developers gave Heavy too much health, he would be incredibly OP and unfun. Now, as a result of this design limitation, this means that Heavy isn't actually a tank unless he has received an overheal that gives him the ability to tank an additional shot. And just like Spy, this means that Heavy can sometimes struggle. That isn't to say that either Spy or Heavy are bad classes, it's just that they are less self-reliant than some of the other mercs. You can still put in work as a Heavy without beam, but you are more reliant on your team in general than some other classes. So, to loop back to the original question I asked in the title, does Heavy rely on medic? No, he does not rely on a medic, however he does need support from his team. So if you would rephrase the argument to Heavy relies on his team a lot more than some other classes, I would agree 100%. Oh! Oh my god!